Welcome back everyone. In this video I'm just going to go right back to basics. At work, still getting asked a lot of people coming in trying to want to learn how to fish and go out and have a fun, even take the kids out and have a bit of fun. No one really knows where to start off with. So in this video we're just going right back to basics, guys. I'm going to start off basic fishing around Australia. Doesn't matter if you're in the tropics or down south. I'm going to show you what you should look for, what sort of rods and reels to look for. Okay, some basic lures to use, nothing too fancy, some basic knots. I'm going to go through some rigs as well, and then I'll do another video shortly on just different ways to bait up some small baits for your river fishing, and just trying to help you out a bit. And enough of that, let's get into it. So this first little segment, I'm just going to start off with just some gear. So when you go to your local tackle shop or wherever and you want to buy a little rod and reel to go have some fun or start fishing, I'm going to suggest to go and look for reels around the 2,500 size. Okay guys, it doesn't matter on the brand, that's going to come down to you and how much money you want to spend to start off with, because the reels can start off from like 40 bucks, 60 bucks up to 1,000, depending on what you want to buy and how extreme you want to go. But like I said, this is back to basics. So most people will probably go buy a Shimano or a Daiwa, a little 2,500, and you can get them like $80, $100, $120. Not bad little reels, and good for what you want to do and start out with. Okay, don't let people push you in and say you need a bigger reel and you need more line and this and that. You're not. Just starting out, you're going down to local waterways, down to your local rivers. You're just going to want to throw some small baits in or small lures in and catch your bread and butter species like your bream, your whiting, your flathead, and your little 2,500s will do it. Okay, so what I'm talking about, guys, are just reels like this sort of size. Doesn't have to be this particular one. This is a Vanford, but just a little 2,500 reel. Fill it full of either braid or mono. That's your choice. I'd probably suggest to start off with just with some mono. If you're new to fishing, you're just going to get into it. It's a lot easier to learn knots and doesn't tangle as much, and it's easy to get tangles out. So we'll probably look around a 2,500 size reel. Like I said, talk to your local tackle shop. Get the one that suits your budget. Don't get pushed into ones you don't need. And put around about 8 to 10 pound line on them. I like to go a little bit lighter, 4 and 6, but I've been fishing for 50 years. If you're new to it, go just a little bit heavier, say 8 or 10 pound, just until you get used to drag systems, how drags work, and get used to fish running. And then you can start stepping down and updating your gear and everything else. So 2,500s. And most of the rods you're going to look at are either going to be like a glass rod, which are good for bait fishing. They've got a nice light tip on them if you want to go just throw some baits in, and they're quite a lot cheaper. But if you want to do more lure fishing, keep yourself active, and you want to walk around the banks casting a few lures, I suggest just get yourself a carbon fibre rod like this. Most of the rod sizes you're going to look at around 6'6" to 7 foot. They're just your average size rods. They're nice size rods. You don't need to go big and long like some people will tell you to go really long to get better cast. Not true. If you've got a well balanced outfit, so little 2,500 with 8 pound line on it, a nice say 3 kilo stick, you'll see the weight of the line and lures on the rods nowadays. And if you're not sure, ask the person in your tackle shop what it should match up with. Hopefully they'll set you up with a nice little rod. Okay, so a 6'6" to 7 foot rod, a little reel, light line, small lures walking up and down the banks. You're going to cast far enough. You'll cast a long way if it's well balanced, and you'll catch a variety of fish. But it is lure fishing. Don't expect to go catch one in your first cast. It's very unlikely. You will be doing a lot of casts. It does take practice. It's fishing, okay? But that's half the fun. Working it out. You're working out what lures you need, when you're going to go, where you're going to go. That's all part of the fun. If you expect to go down there to catch fish every trip and big fish every trip, this sport's not for you. It takes patience, it takes time, and it gets you out of the house, which is great. So once again, just as this is a carbon fibre rod, this is a Zodius, but you don't need to go to this extreme. You're just going to find a 6'6" to 7 foot rod around about 3 kilo range, like a 2 to 4, or if you want to go 3 to 6, just don't go any heavier than 3 to 6 kilo. A little 2,500 reel on there, say 8 to 10 pound line. Okay, if you go carbon fibre, you're going to have a nice lure rod. You'll be able to go cast some soft plastics and little slugs around, little hard bodies, and things we'll talk about later. lure fishing. If you want to go just bait fishing, if you want to sit down at the beach and throw a bait out, sit in a chair, kick back and relax, have a beer or whatever while you're down the river, a drink, just sit back and relax, just go buy yourself a nice rod with a glass tip. And you'll notice the difference. The ones with the glass tip are the clear rods. They've got clear tips and they're a lot more whippy, so they're not as good for lures, but they're better for bait. You can see the bites on them. But saying that, the carbon fibre rods too you can use for bait fishing as well. Just they're a bit stiffer in the tip, so you just got to keep a bit more of an eye on them or hold your finger on a line just so you see and you don't miss those little light bites. But this is all you're going to need, guys, to start off with. This is a nice small outfit like this. Doesn't matter where in Australia you are, go down to your local waterways, your rivers, fish off the shore, fish off a jetty, fish in your tinny, chase your bread and butter species, lures or bait. These are the type of things you're going to be looking for, okay? And I'm going to just suggest I was going to grab this one as well. Just knocked me right over, that was good. And if you're a bit rough with the gear, apparently like I am, don't go high end because you'll break it. Okay, can't believe I've done that. Anyway, if you say up in the tropics and most of your local species are pull a bit harder, a bit bigger, like mangrove jacks, barramundi, a few smaller trevally, queenfish, that sort of stuff, you will get them on 2500s, but these are quite powerful fish and they will take a bit of time and a bit of practice. You can get them on a lot of gear, but I would suggest if you're up in the tropics, don't go so light. That's more bottom half of Australia. If you're up higher, just go something like a 4000. Just step up in the size. So a 4000 reel, put about 20-pound braid or mono, but probably braid because you're getting heavier in a line. A 20-pound braid is very thin, so it's cast very well with lures. And then step up with your rods. Once again, it's around a 6'6" to 7 foot, 7'2" rod. They're same sort of rods, same sort of, just it's a step up, next size up. So you got a 4000, and you're going to be looking around an 8 kilo rod. You'll see 8 kilo written on there. That's like 6 to 10 or something on the rods, or 8 to 10. I have it on the rods. I ran about an 8 kilo stick, a 4000 size reel, 20-pound line, mono or braid. I suggest braid is getting heavier just for casting. And things like this would be fine for walking around the creeks and fishing out of tinnies and your piers and pontoons and stuff up north, chasing barra and jacks and trevally, queenies, just bigger, more powerful fish. Okay, but once again, you don't need to go to buy the $1,000 reels to start out with. Just talk to the guys in the local tackle shop. Don't buy the cheapest, nastiest thing there. Please don't, really don't. You're just going to waste your money. Spend a little bit of money, but you don't have to spend a fortune. Look at reels between around 150 mark and upwards. Okay, just get something reasonable to start off with. Just so they'll get you the decent drags and decent gearing for fighting fish. Don't go buy the cheapest thing you can find. It's not going to help you, it's really not. Only do that, guys, if you plan on fishing for a weekend and leaving the gear where you're camping or staying, or you just want to throw it out. Then buy the cheap gear. But if you plan on going each weekend with the kids or just for fun to get out of the house, spend a little bit of money, buy something reasonable. You don't have to go top end, just something reasonable. Talk to your guys in your local tackle shop. Okay? So that's that. There's some rod and reels. Hopefully that bit will start you out, give you an idea what to go look for in the shops, and just have a bit of fun. In the next couple of segments we're going to talk about some basic knots for you to tie. Good, strong knots, easy knots. And I'm only really going to show you one good knot actually. And then we'll do some rigs, and I'll show you some basic lures, just some nice basic easy to use lures. And we'll go from there, guys. Okay. Alright guys, let's get into a couple of basic knots for you. Okay, these are only two knots you really need to tie for what we're going to be doing, for just making up basic rigs for your river fishing and just getting out and learning. I've got a swivel here and a hook, okay? I know they're big, they're not what we're going to be using for the rivers. These demonstrations just to tie the knots, just so you can see them, hopefully. Okay, so with the hook, we're going to be tying the same knot for the hooks as swivels. Okay, I've got some Dacron here, so hopefully you can follow along. If not, the first knot I'm going to tie is called a uni knot, so U-N-I, uni knot. If you can't follow this one, there's plenty of videos on YouTube to go find this knot. But this is the one I tie, I've been tying most of my life. It's one of the strongest knots, it's one of the easiest knots, and it works well, guys. Okay. So basically all you do is just go through the eye of the hook. This is the same knot you're going to tie on the swivels too, by the way. And as you can see there, I've got the tag ends, a cut off end. Pull it up, so about yay, so 3 inches or so. Then what I do is I go about 1 inch up from the hook, right, like so. Pinch it with your left hand. You got your big long tag end there, okay. Now with the tag end, I bring it back around so it's like so. So the tag end has gone through the hook, up, and it's making a loop, it's going down. What we do, with your right hand, you can see the tag end sitting there, just put your finger there. Now, I just put the tag, it's made a big loop here, I just put the tag back through that loop. And it goes around your 2 lines here. Yeah. So they go through the loop. So 1, 2, 3, I'm just going to do 4, okay. Now with your tag in again, your cut off end, just pull it tight. You'll see the knots tying down there. Don't go pull it super tight, just pull it up so it's nice and the knot's tight, snug. And now you can just slide it down, basically. See, it just slides down. Once it slides down, now you can pull it up tight and give your tag in a bit of a tight, bit of a pull. You can see there, that's a uni knot. That's how quick and simple that is. That knot won't undo, it won't break. Cut your tag end off. Okay, tag end's gone, there you go. That's it, very simple, very strong. That's probably one of the main knots I tie when I'm rigging up baits and lures. I mean, I do tie it on lures too at times, depending on how I'm rigging the lures. But that's the main knot you want to tie. The other one people tell you about is a blood knot. Also a very easy knot, but most people forget the last step, believe it or not. You should actually do the last step in a blood knot. Okay? So what we're going to do, I'll show you the blood knot. I'll use a swivel. We'll go through the eye once again. Now you've got your tag end here, and you've got your main one here to your hook and your tag end. So with your tag end, just wrap it around the other one. So wrap it around 1, 2, 3, 4. Most people go 5 times, right? And down at your swivel, down here you can see there's a little, hopefully you can see that, there's a little hole, little eye. Not the swivel itself, just what you made in the line. Go back through that eye. Most people there will pull that tight and call that a blood knot. But actually it's not. When you went back through the eye, you made yourself another loop here. You can see that loop? Now you want to take your tag in and go back through that big loop. Okay? Now you can pull it all tight. That's a blood knot. Most people just do the wraps and then put it through. And if you do that in mono, sometimes if you don't do enough wraps or pull it tight enough, that can undo. But if you go through your small loop, small eye, and then back through the bigger one you made, and lock it down like so, that locks off, that can't pull out. So that's the other good one. So if you do the blood knot, don't forget to go back through the big loop you made to lock it off, okay? So that's the 2 knots I want you to go practice, even look online. There's quite a few diagram stuff online on YouTube. Close up are a lot easier to follow along and tie. This is just a quick demo. But if you want to practice, look at some other videos, and they do some good, they do some good videos and close ups, so you really follow along quite easily. So the blood knot and the uni knot, the only 2 knots I really want you guys to go. Choose one, whichever one's easier for you, and use that knot, okay? Don't worry about all the other fancy ones and all. Everyone tells you to do this and do that. Just these 2 knots are going to get you out fishing. Started, they're very strong, they won't break. Okay? That's all you're going to need to start off with. You can advance later on, like I said, by different gear. Go sport fishing, go lighter gear. Once you learn how to use drags, different lures, start tying all the fancy knots, all the FG knots and stuff later if you're up for it. But just start off with these. That's a uni knot or a blood knot. I suggest a uni knot. It is a stronger knot, a better knot. But if you can't work out how to do it and a blood knot seems easier for you, tie the blood knot. One other thing, guys, if you are going to use braid and start off with braid when you use these knots, see I've done 4 wraps or 5 wraps, and that's fine with mono, that will grip. If you're using like an 8-ply braid, 8-ply, and you'll know that because it's on the box, a braid will say 8 or 4 or whatever. If it's 8-ply braid, it's quite smooth. And some of it's got a bit of a slippery coating on it. So do a couple of extra wraps, guys. So you tie these knots, instead of doing 4 or 5 wraps, do 8 wraps. Just do a couple of extra wraps if you tie them with braid, okay? Well, part two, that's a second bit, hopefully that one helps. We'll start talking about rigs in a minute. I'll just show you a couple of basic rigs for fishing, okay? Okay, let's do, I said before we're going to do rigs, but no, this is back to basics, so I just want to get you guys, you know, out fishing with some basics to have a bit of fun and learn. So I'm just going to show you one rig. You can use this rig all over the country. You can use it for so many different species. It really is back to basics. It works well and it's simple to make, guys. So I'm just going to do the one rig and we'll go from there. Okay, so as you can see, I've just got it right here and a bit of leader line. This rig you can make with smaller sinkers, bigger sinkers, heavier leader, lighter leader, bigger hooks, whatever. You can chase so many fish with this rig. From whiting and rivers to chasing big snapper offshore, to mulloway, all sorts of things. This rig works for a variety of things. You just got to upgrade your lines and leaders and hooks and swivels, that's all. So what the rig I'm talking about is just a basic running sinker rig, okay? Very, very simple, guys. And with the knots I just showed you, if the blood knot or a uni knot, you can tie this rig, get you out fishing, the kids will be able to tie it easy and it works well. So if we're going back to basics, we're just going to get on the rivers. So what we're going to need is a small ball sinker. And you notice the size of that's quite small. The reason for that, guys, another tip with fishing, when you're starting out, everyone wants to fish big hooks, thinking of chasing big fish, big heavy sinkers and stuff. It doesn't work that way, guys. Get in the river, have a bit of fun and practice. But with fishing, the lighter you can fish, the better, always. The lighter the line, the lighter the sinkers, the lighter everything you can fish, the better. It really is. And don't think because I've got a small hook here, small long shake and a small sinker, I can't catch a decent fish. Of course you can catch a decent fish, but that's going to come down to a bit of skill and a lot of luck. It really is. It's fishing. And it's all part of the fun once again. So let's get into it. So with the running sinker rig, this is my main line here onto the rod, okay? So what we do is just put the sinker on first. Just the sinker. So it's on the main line, you can see that. I've got my small swivel here, I've got a little tiny black swivel. You only need small, you don't need to go too big. And if you look around and look, swivels will tell you the sizes, and they'll tell you the breaking strain on them too. And a lot of these break well and truly above what line class you're fishing. So you can go quite small, and small's good. Once again, the lighter, the better. So I'm going to tie the swivel on now, this little tiny swivel. And I'm going to use a uni knot because that's what I tie, but that's, guys, you can use whatever knot you like, but hopefully a blood knot or a uni knot, so just two of the best. So uni knot, go around a couple of times, slide her up, slide her down. And usually when you tie knots too, I didn't do it that time because I'm just demonstration, but always put a bit of spit or something on your line and saliva on there as you're sliding down, so there's no friction and you don't damage your line, okay? So always put a bit of saliva on as you're tying a knot and slide it down. Cut your tag end off. You just want to leave a little short tag, you know, like a few mils, because the knots will pull up a little bit tighter under pressure if you hook decent fish. So now you got your sinker, see? Running sinker, it's just running on the main line, that's all it's doing, and your little swivel. You should have yourself some leader, okay? For this I just grabbed out, what did I grab? I got FC Rock, I'll grab 20 pound. You don't want 20 pound for what we're doing, but it's just demonstrations. So we're back on the rivers, back basics. You got your 8 pound, your little 2500 rod and reel, you got 8 pound line on it, you're going down chasing some brim or whiting or something. You don't have to go big heavy leader. Okay, go similar to your main line. You're only in the rivers chasing some bread and butter species. So buy a 10 pound or a 12 pound. If you want to go a little bit heavier, 10 or 12, but don't go super heavy. Once again, the lighter you can fish, the better. If I'm chasing whiting, I go down to 8 pound. I actually go a lighter leader if I'm running this type of gear. But most of the time I'm usually fishing 4 pounds, so I run about a 6 pound leader for whiting. Because they can be really finicky at times, so I fish really, really light. If you're running 8 or 10 pounds, run 10 pound. If you're a little bit worried about, you know, being fishing light and new to it, go 12 pound, but don't go any heavier than that. You're not going to need it. In saying that, if you're chasing flathead and flathead have got raspy teeth and you're looking for a nice flathead for tea, small ones you'll get on 6, 8, 10 pound quite easily, but if you hook a big girl, like a 70, 80 or 90, even though you can't keep them, but they are fun to catch. And those fights can take a while on light gear. They can take 10 minutes on light gear, and they've got raspy teeth. They can't wear through the leader. So a lot of us jump up to about 14 to 16 pound if we're chasing big flathead. Okay, just a little tip there. If not, you just go and casting for a few small fish for a bit of fun, or just, you know, throw a bait out. Go down to about 12, okay? So what we're going to do now, I've got a leader, I'm going to cut about 1.5 foot off. That's about 1.5 foot, roughly. Yeah, something like that, roughly. So I'm going to cut that off. Now what we're going to do is grab your swivel or your sink, your little swivel, tie your leader on. Once again, same sort of knots, uni knots or blood knots or whatever you tie, but hopefully one of those two. Just going to tie that on. Wet the knot down, see? Bit of saliva on it. Slide it down, no friction. The line's not damaged at all. Pull your tag in as well, so you want to pull main line and the tag in just to lock the knot off, make it tight. Cut it off, leave a little bit of tag there, a few mils. Now once again, your hook. You're only going to be using small hooks with this gear, chasing once again bread and butter species. So hook's going to depend on what bait you want to use. Most of the time, if you're say down south and you're chasing a few whiting, King George, or you know, sand whiting or something a bit further up the coast, most of us run long shank hooks. You can see that's a long shank. Hopefully you can see that one. It's quite long there. And they're the ones we'll thread a worm on. Like usually use a worm bait. If I'm running small suicides, I'm usually using like flesh baits or like whole little white bait or something. If I'm using chunks of fish or like a half a white bait or a chunk of pilly or something, you can use like bait holders. But that's not a video. I'll do the baiting up one again. Not again, but I will do that baiting up video shortly. So after this one, keep an eye out a week or 2 weeks after, and I'll do a baiting up one on what hooks and what bait to use. So back to basics and the rivers and stuff, small, okay? So once again, we've got the hook there. Ow, it's actually a sharp hook. I'm going to tie my uni knot because that's what I tie. 3-4 times. Let it down. Slide it up. Don't hook yourself. There we go. Cut the tag down nice and short. There's our rig. This is a rig, guys, I want you to go practice tying and use everywhere. So what we got? We've got the sinker, swivel, about 1.5 foot to whatever hook you want to use for, depending on bait, but we'll get to that in the next video when I do a baiting video, and I'll show you what hooks and what bait and how to bait them up. It's very simple. Okay, so that one, I've got a long shank, so I say we're going to be fishing worms with this one for whiting. You can dress things like this up if you want to put the red tube on there for whiting. Not necessarily, but you can do it. But I just want you to learn this rig. Sinker, swivel, 1.5 foot of trace, hook. Okay, this will work when you're fishing off land, out of a boat, off a jetty, wherever. Doesn't matter what species you want to chase. If you want to upgrade the lures, I mean not the lures, the leader, the sinker, the swivel and the hooks. I use this rig when I'm chasing 30-50 pound mulloway. I just upgrade everything. Everything's heavier, on heavier gear. Same rig though. You can use this rig for a lot of different species. You're live bait fishing with this. You can use this for live baiting. You can do all sorts of things with this rig. So this is a good main rig for you guys to learn and to start out your fishing career. It's back to basics. It's where I started. It's where most fishermen started. Okay. And the whole idea of this one is when it hits the bottom, you're fishing a little bit of current or got a live bait on or whatever. Your sinker at the bottom, your bait here will drift away from the sinker a little bit and just wafts nicely in the current. It's not all tied up. So if a fish picks it up and he's playing around with the bait, there's no friction. He doesn't feel any weight. Okay, until he pulls the line too tight and then rod. But he's not dragging a sinker around and thinking this is a bit fishy and dropping it and swimming away and not coming back. You can pick it up, move around a bit, it's a bit of freedom, and the bait can drift away from the sinker. Okay, and it's just a good all-round rig, guys, to learn and use. Okay, let's go to the next step. Lure part. Some lures for basics fishing. I've got a few different ones here. I'm just going to show you. These are very easy to go find, buy and to use. Okay, so there's nothing hard about these lures. You don't need any fancy techniques or anything. They're just quite simple lures to use, and they do work for a lot of species. Alright guys, and we'll start off with the one most people will go and use is plastics, soft plastics. what I've got here is a 4-inch, or a 5-inch scrub, 4-inch scrub. What I mean by grub, it's got a tail, a big curly tail like this. And the reason I'm showing you this one, there's so many different types of plastics out, you know, to buy and use, and everyone's got their own favourites, but I'm showing you this one because this one's one of the easiest to use. It really is. There's nothing fancy about it, no fancy techniques for this one. Okay, and it works really, really well. It's one of my go-to lures. If this doesn't work, I might as well go home because there's no fish to be caught, especially flathead, if you want to chase flathead. Okay, so the whole idea of these ones, they've got the soft curly tail. It does a lot of the action for you. When I'm running these things, I usually like got a 1/4 ounce head and like a 3-hour hook or a 4-hour hook in them. You can see that one there. And if you see, the tail goes down if you rig these up and the hook's up. Okay, hook and tail are opposite. Don't have them the same way, otherwise I'll tangle and drive you nuts. So hook and tail opposite. And the whole idea of these things, these are very simple to use. Like I said, this is my go-to lure, especially for flathead. And on these little light 2500s and little 3 kilo sticks, great outfits to use them. You can cast them 1/2 mile. And its technique for these things is really, really simple guys. When it's cast out, let it sink to the bottom. Once it's on the bottom, just do this. Just go 1, 2. Drop your rod tip. Wind up your slack line. Wait a couple of seconds. 1, 2. Drop your rod tip. Wind up the slack line. That's it. So basically all this is going to do is be on the bottom. You'll jig up and it'll go down, puff up a bit of sand, make some noise, wind up your slack line, then up, down. That's all it's going to do. And that's the easiest way to catch fish. And when it's going up and down, the tail's twirling in the water, giving you a bit of action. So simple. One of the easiest lures to use and one of the best ones. Some of these, like soft plastics, you'll see are dead straight, come down to the little skinny tail. You got to do all sorts of action and stuff. You got to stand there and shake your rods, and it's getting more advanced. We're back to basics. So go curl tail, give it 1, 2, drop your rod tip down, wait till it sinks to the bottom, wind up your slack, and 1, 2. Back to basics, works an absolute treat. Like I said, especially for flathead. Caught a lot of brim on these things and whiting, even blackfish, trevally, all sorts. You catch all sorts, but flathead, it's deadly. Okay. Next, the easiest one. If you're ever around river mouths or in the rivers and deep water or bays, and you see a lot of fish, or even a surf, if you're down to surf, and you see fish breaking on the surface, depending on where you are in Australia, they could be trevally, they could be tailor, they could be salmon, anything like that. They could even be small tuna in close, you just don't know. But all the species I just mentioned, you can catch in this light gear. It's good fun because these things will run and give you a good run, and they're great little sport fish. Not the greatest eating fish, but the greatest sport fish and good fun. And they're simple to catch if you can cast far enough. And best way to do it is these little slugs. These are these little metal slugs. You don't want to go too big and too heavy with this light gear. You only want to go grab like 30 gram ones, 20 gram, 30 grams. I think this one's 30 or something, or 40, it might be a 40. But you only want to get 20 to 40, you don't want to go too heavy for these little rods. And tie it straight on. That's the beauty of these lures I'm showing you too. There's no special loop knots or anything, you don't need nothing. Nothing fancy. These are just tied on with a uni knot or your blood knot. So keep using the same knot, even for these lures. That's why I'm picking these things, so you don't have to, you're not learning too much too fast. You're just going to have some fun. But these are little casting slugs. They're just a slug, and as you can see, I usually use chrome, or mine are black and chrome. I like a black back and chrome. It's a good all-round colour. It seems to work a treat everywhere. Or just chrome. As you can see, they just look like bait fish. Whole idea of this: cast it out as far as you can cast, then wind really quickly. Just wind as fast as you can wind, and then get it darting through the water. And those little fish, trevally and stuff, love these things. They'll chase it, they'll chase it down and knock it off quite easily. And they're good fun and easy to use. So cast, wind, that's it. At your schools you can see splashing on the surface. Like I said, depending on where you are in the country, they could be salmon, they could be trevally, they could be little tuna, you just don't know. Just cast these, all those species will eat these little slugs. Cast them out, wind them fast. That's all you do. That's it guys. Keep it simple. Okay, and if reels will come in different speeds. If you for some reason buy a high-end one and you're winding these things, they start skipping on the surface, don't panic, that's fine. Fish will catch it. They can swim faster, you can wind. Just keep winding fast. Okay. So slugs are very good, very easy. Curl tails, plastics, very good, very easy, and one of the easiest lures to use. We'll get a little bit more advanced here, but not much. Next ones I like in rivers and river mouths and stuff, and just back to basics and good fun sight fishing. It's just using little stick baits. Like that's a little Sammy, and alright, you'll learn the names of lures. There's so many lures. You'll learn names over the years as you start using them, if you stick with it. That's just a little Sammy. And these things are a surface lure, so they float on the surface. And the way it's curved and stuff, I love these little things. They're great for trevally and tailor and things. And I use them at night time a lot as well, and jacks. The whole idea of these is cast them out and you just give your rod tips little twitches. Just as you're winding and you're giving your rod little twitches like this, and you're winding, just little twitches as you're winding. It's a bit hard to do with the camera there, sorry guys, but you twitch, you just slow wind, twitch. And the whole idea of these things will be zigzagging across the surface like so, like that, across the surface, just zigzagging side to side across the surface. And they're fantastic. And they're on the surface, so you get all the surface strikes. You see fish come up and tails come out of the water and hit them, and mouths come up and big eruptions of... It's good fun, exciting fishing, surface fishing. Okay, and you can use these over the shallows and the flats and chase flathead. You can use them for trevally. I've caught jacks on them, lots of jacks. Mainly trevally, jacks, and have caught a couple of flathead. But flathead do eat them if you use them over very shallow water. And the bigger, more aggressive whiting will have a crack at these too. Don't kid yourself, they're aggressive buggers. But little surface lures, like little stick baits, these are walk the dog sort of style, they're fun. I've only got a couple other ones here guys. This is just basics. There's so many lures in the market, but these is a good one to get you out started without thinking too much about it and learning too many techniques. The other one I'm going to suggest is vibes. Okay? These are just these are a quake. I think they're a power bait quake. They're metal inside, but they've got a rubber outer coating and a soft tail, as you can see. And the whole idea of these things are awesome for a variety of fish, especially things like threadfin salmon and stuff up north. Barra, but jacks will eat them, flathead, all sorts will eat them, don't worry. They'll hook a variety of fish. Whole idea of these are very simple to use too. Cast them out, they're quite heavy, and they'll sink fairly quickly. Once again, just tie them one with a uni knot or a blood knot, same, nothing fancy. And there's two different ways you can actually steady wind and start off slowly and go a little bit quicker and quicker, and then you'll feel these things kicking again. You'll start feeling vibrating through your rod. Keep that same pace, and I'll do this back to the boat or the shore or wherever you're casting from. That's one way to use them, but generally I prefer to let them sink to the bottom and then rip the rod up, and you'll feel them. You'll feel the vibration as they come up. Then drop your rod tip, let them sink, wind up your slack, and then do it again. So bounce them off the bottom if you cast them from the land. So they'll go to the bottom, then you'll rip the rod, you'll feel them vibrate up, then they'll sink. Then vibrate up, just like the plastic sort of thing, but you'll feel the vibration of these things through the rod. And if you're out in the boat, a lot of it is actually just drop them down to the bottom and do that again. And just as we're drifting along, or on spot lock on a certain area, or a mark we want to sit on, just lift the rod quickly, and you'll feel it vibrate up, then let it sink down, then vibrate up, then sink down. That's it. There's nothing to it. They're very easy to use, and they work an absolute treat for a lot of species. Vibes. And these things come from this small size up to rather large. You can use them offshore as well. Get them all different sizes. They're great. And they come in different types too. You've got the same ones, you've got little metal ones and stuff too, like this. Same deal. They work them exactly the same way. The last one wasn't sure I was going to show you this one or not. It's a little bit more advanced, but it's just fun fishing, guys. So I thought I'd just throw it out there. It's back to stick baits again, but these are like this is like a little sugar pen. Okay, and the difference is I take the trebles off. You should leave the trebles on the front. I usually leave the treble on the front. I'm not sure why this one's missing, but anyway, there's so many over there. But on the back one, we've got what we call the assist hooks. Little light hooks, you see, like on a string, dangling on a string. And when you've got this little light gear, or even if you go down to a 1,000 size reel and 4-pound line, and you really want to go and have some fun with some small fish, go to a 1,000 reel, 4-pound line on a little light 2-kilo rod. Walk around sand flats, have a high tide, sand flats, or where you know there's whiting hunting in like a foot of water, 2 foot of water, and cast these out. And chase whiting in the shallows with these. It is good fun. It's exciting fishing, it's visual fishing. It's really a lot of fun. We used to do it down the Gold Coast a lot. You used to kayak out to the sandbanks on the kayak, then just anchor the kayak and get out in like knees deep of water. And I used to just walk through, just casting these around the sand flats, catching whiting. That's good fun. That's a good fun, easy day out. Okay. But it's a thing, you can catch so many different species on lures, and especially in rivers. And you don't need all high-tech fancy gear. Oh well, that's that bit. Hopefully that gives you an idea on what to go buy and have a bit of fun with. Next, I think, what are we going to do next? Alright, I'm going to talk about what sort of gear you need to take with you when you go fishing. Okay. Now we get down to what we should take with us when we go for a fish. Whether we're going out in a boat or down to the jetty or just going to sit down at the beach or go for a walk along the beach. I'm just going to show you some of the things I take just to make life easier. I don't take a lot. Some guys I know take half a tackle shot, but you don't really need to. Anyway, this is what I take, and just to make my life a bit easier. First of all, we'll start off with, I've always got myself a little, dry bag. So I throw like my keys and wallets, keys, phone, wallet, whatever, in that. Okay, just to make sure they're dry, just in case it rains or wherever you are. Okay, so from that we'll go to, I've got a big bag. This is a waterproof bag. This is like a rubbery bag. I actually got this from BCF. It's not bad, and it's waterproof. So I've got my big bag there. I always take that with me, no matter if I'm going like walking the banks or I'm going out in the boat. If I'm going out in the boat, I'll fill it up full of gear, throw it in the boat. If I'm going walking the banks, I'll just put a couple of tackle trays and what I'm about to show you here in it, throw it over my bag, rod in my hand, I walk along casting. Well, that's just on my bag, on my back. It's very simple, and it's got everything you need in it. So bag, and then from the bag, I've got a tackle tray. If I'm going lure fishing, it's usually full of lures, as you can see there. Or I've got another tackle tray full of hooks and sinkers and swivels, depending on what sort of fishing you're going to do. So that's going to go in my bag, the big bag. Always take leader to suit, depending on what sort of fishing you are. Always have some spare leader to suit, okay? So that goes in the bag as well. Very important one, have yourself a brag mat. Definitely go get a brag mat, because these things, it doesn't matter if you lay them in the sand or in the water or whatever, they're fine. Just go home, give it a hose off, and they're fine. Just roll it up, good to go. And very important if you want to keep some fish for a feed, so you really need to know the legal sizes, okay? So you don't get in trouble from fisheries and get a nasty fine. So brag mat's always good. Just go buy yourself a brag mat, and like I said, it doesn't matter if they get wet or whatever, or lay them in the sand, just give them a wash and they're fine. Also, in the bag. Next thing I take to help out, especially getting hooks out of fish, especially small fish, if I want to release them, try and keep them in the best possible condition, is just a de-hooker. If you don't want to go spend money on something like this, a de-hooker, it's got a little hook on the end, you just pull the hooks out. Every man and his dog's got a pair of pointy nose pliers, long nose pliers in the shed. Does the same job, okay, some pliers. So just a de-hooker, okay? That always goes in my bag. Always take a pair of scissors. Everyone takes scissors now. It's the best way to cut line and braid. Just make sure they're sharp. If they're not sharp, they'll do your head in. So, good pair of scissors. Okay. Lip grips are something else most of us take now. That goes in the bag. Buy yourself a decent pair of lip grips. These things will last for years, and it's an easy way to handle fish. Okay. Especially big fish with big mouths. You can put this in the hold one end, your hand under the belly to take their weight so you don't hurt them. Okay, just a good way to handle fish. Lip grips are always very handy. That goes in the bag. And last but not least, last thing I usually take, especially if I plan on keeping a few fish, if I want to catch a fish for a feed, I'll take a good old sharpening stone, and I'll take a really good filleting knife. Okay, they always come with me, especially if I plan on, taking a fish for a feed. But if I'm just walking the bank, casting a few lures for a bit of fun to fill in time, I don't generally worry about taking that. I'll take my scissors to cut line and make rigs and stuff, but I won't worry about my knife if I'm just walking the banks just for a cast. And guys, that's it. That's all I take. That, especially if I'm walking the banks, I'll throw that over my back, and that's just on my back. All the gear there. I've got my rod in the hand. I'll just walk along casting, and all my gear's right here on my back. And if I need to put it down in the wet sand or whatever, that bag's waterproof. It's a waterproof bag. So if it rains, my gear doesn't get wet. If I'm walking the beach or the sand, I can set it down in the wet sand. I don't have to worry about the bag soaking up the water and all my stuff inside of it getting wet and sandy. It's a waterproof bag. It's very, very handy. And mainly out in the boat, the spray, because I've only got a small boat, a lot of spray, hits the bag and the gear stays dry. It's just very handy. I used to use a backpack all the time. Backpacks are very handy, but they're not waterproof, and they actually soak up, the material will soak up the water when you put them in the wet sand, or if they're in the boat they come back, they're drenched, your stuff inside's wet. That's why I just got in the habit of taking that, because I used to have a backpack and I used to put my phone and stuff in there just to keep it dry. Now it's just a habit, I'll put it in there and then I'll put it inside the waterproof bag and nothing gets wet. Nothing gets wet at all. And that's it guys, that, and a pass a rod or two or whatever you want. Usually I take one, sometimes two. Any more than that just ends up being a hassle, especially if you're walking along beaches. Out in the boat I'll take 3 or 4 because you can stash them in the boat. But when you're walking, 1 or 2 is fine. That's all you need. And that's it guys, very quick, simple. Hopefully the basics I've showed you here will help you, choose your gear and get out and go for a fish. Just, all I can say is just go, try, use some of the techniques I've showed you here. Go, start learning, get outside and enjoy life. Hopefully catch a fish, hopefully you stick with it, and like the rest of us, then you just upgrade, start chasing different fish, buying different gear, and it's a fun sport, it really is. It's not a cheap sport by any means, but it is a fun sport, and you can pretty much go anywhere and you can chase fish all over this beautiful country of ours. Fresh water, salt water, rivers, offshore. We've got so many places you can go throw a line in. It's a great country to go do it guys. Go and enjoy it. I think that's pretty much it. Actually no, it's not. Sorry guys, I'm just rambling on here. No, I'm about to go, there's 2 other things I want to talk about. I'm about to go for a drive. I want to show you some spots, like when you go fishing. I know this is a basic, so I actually, instead of trying to explain to you what you should look for, I'm going to go for a drive down the water in a minute, and I'm going to show you just basically what I look for when I'm going fishing. It's just easier visual, so you can see, instead of trying to sit there and explain it. Okay, we'll go do that shortly, and then after that we'll talk about best times to go, and that'll be the end. And hopefully you go out and have a crack. Hey guys, when we were looking for fishing spots, a lot of guys were standing at a bank like this and just cast out in the middle there, and I'm going to tell you not to do that. Out there in the middle there's not really a lot. It's usually flat sand, mud. If you notice most boat fishermen, they're casting towards the shore. So if I come down to a little river like this, I was fishing here, you can see here there's a rock wall. Most fish travel along the edge of the rock wall, so I'd cast about 20 feet out from the rocks, maybe a little bit further depending on how far the rocks go out. Or what you want to do is cast around the pylons, because where the pylons are, that's structure. Structure holds bait. Where there's bait, there's predator fish. So for me, if I was fishing here, I'd probably be sitting on the rocks and I'd be casting out, just fishing just next to those pylons. I wouldn't be casting out in the middle there. And if I was walking up the creek a little bit, if you wanted to walk up the creek and stuff, I'd look in walking amongst the mangroves there. You find a nice little opening, and instead of casting once again right out in the middle, cast along. You just want to be on the outside edge of the trees, because most of the bait fish and stuff be under and around the trees in the water, and the bigger fish will be cruising along the edge. And up in the tropics where it's really hot, a lot of it is actually cast out lures. I don't know if you see through here, there's shade under the trees. If we're on a boat or whatever, or even ashore, be casting into the shade. So a lot of the fish are actually sitting in the shade, especially up here in the tropics where it gets really hot. Okay, so I'll be fishing along the edge of the mangroves over there, or I'll be fishing along bridge pylons. That's the sort of thing you'd be looking for. Rock walls work well too, so I wouldn't cast a long way from the rocks if there's rocks everywhere. But the hard part about that is you just don't know how far the rocks go out. They won't go all the way across, but they might go out 20 feet or 30 feet, you just don't know. Best idea for that is come down to a spot at low tide, when the tide's really low. Have a look, you'll get an idea how far the rocks are out, and then you can come here, you know how far to cast. Okay, so this is the first spot. Hope that sort of helps. Like this looks like a nice little posse. You can sit here, cast out around the pylons, or go for a walk down and then cast along the edge of the mangroves. Not cast out in the middle, but just cast along the edge of the mangroves, because that's where the fish are, that's where the bait fish are. You don't want to be casting in the middle, okay? Like I said, most boat fishermen you'll see will run down in a boat and they'll be casting towards the shore for a reason. Alright, hopefully that helps, guys. Let's go and have a look at another area. Alright guys, here's the next spot. This is something else I'd come to look for if I was fishing off the shore. If you look along the edge here, you can see actually how it drops off. The sand here drops right off. This is quite a deep edge here, it's really deep, so the sand drops away, the edge is just there, it's really, really deep. And as you can see, this is quite a big wide river. Most people standing here will try and cast out in the middle once again. I'm going to say don't. With these deep edges, you only need to cast about 30 feet out. So that's where this will drop right off, and that's probably 30 feet out, you're probably a few metres deep. You need to cast 30 feet plus, or not much more than that actually, out. Because you get the big fish, they'll be cruising on these edges of these drop-offs, looking for bait fish and stuff along the edge. You don't need to go cast right in the middle, guys. Just find places like this where it drops off really deep. Cast about 30 feet out, and that's as far as you need to cast. Big fish and good fish will be cruising along the edge. You don't need to go cast out in the middle of nowhere. Okay? So there's the next one. I'm just going to walk around to the front here, to the beach, and show you what I'd look for around there. Alright guys, last spot. Down the beach here. If I was coming down to a beach, I'll be looking out for places like where I am now. As you can see here, I'm on a bit of a sand spit. But if you look around, you can actually see here, it's actually quite deep. It drops off. You can see the sand dropping away. So at the moment, you can see where the dry is and the wet. You can see the high tide marks basically here where I'm walking. So water comes to here, and it's probably 8 to 10 foot out there, or 8 foot to the bottom of that once this tide's up high. So at high tide, this is not a bad spot to fish either. So you don't have to cast a long way out. But the best part about this, if you walk out here, you can have a look around the sand here under the high water. But out there, so if you come to this spit, you can see a heap of channels. See all the channels out here, guys? So you can stand up here at high tide. This is the type of place I'll be looking for fishing if I'm new to an area or looking on a beach. While the tide's out, come down and look for these channels. And if they're in casting distance, you could fish here. You could stand here and work this edge. And if these channels might be a little bit far out, but if you get channels like that a little bit closer, and they're casting distance, you can cast those channels. So those channels could be 10, 15, 20 foot deep, just depending on how deep they are at the moment, low water, at high tide. And they're the type of things you'll get big fish hunting in over high water. Some people look at this and come here at high tide thinking, well, it's fairly flat, but it's not. You got all these channels, you can see all the lumps and stuff. There's channels running through everywhere. And over high water, they're highways for big fish coming up here in the shallows looking for bait. Sorry about the wind. And as you can see, even just standing here, you can see the drop off where I am, the spit. These are the perfect places to fish, guys. These are the type of things you want to go and have a look at. Just giving you an idea what to look at when you're out and about and around. Well, I think that's it for the day. I've had enough of this. It's a bit windy. Sorry about the wind. Okay guys, after all the bits and pieces I just showed you, the tackle and lures and stuff to get you out, get you started fishing. One more bit of advice, guys. Best times to go. I'm going to start off by saying, honestly, if you've got free time and the weather's nice, go for a fish. Just go. A lot of people are going to argue with that and say, no, you should wait for this tide and this moon and this. And that's all very good and very well. But if you wait for the perfect day, which very, very rarely happens, you're never going to go. So, free time, go for a fish. But I will trim that down a bit for you. On your free days, you got a little bit of time. If you can fish around a new moon to a full moon, that's always better. Doesn't mean you have to do that time, but it is always usually a bit better for fishing. And around Australia, no matter whereabouts in Australia, usually a running tide, like a low tide running in, it seems to be better for most species. Not all species, but most species. So if you can just work out throughout the day, if you can go for it, like especially early morning, late afternoon and a running tide, if you can work out a day from like I mean early morning or late afternoon, just a run-in tide at those stages, go for a fish. If you can get a run-in tide late afternoon, early morning, with a new moon or moon rising, best time to go. But that's only 3, and trying to line them up is quite difficult for your days off because they're all pretty busy nowadays. But so once again, nice day, just go for a fish, guys. But if you can work in a running tide some stage throughout the day, just wait and fish the running tide. It will help you out. It seems to be the best tide for fishing. Just in general for most species. Not all species, but most species. Yeah, and like I said, new moon up to a full moon is usually a really good time as well. But you don't have to wait for it, guys. Just free time, nice day, you just want to get out, just go for a fish. If you don't catch something, learn, like the rest of us. Think, why don't I catch something? Was the tide wrong, middle of the day, wrong bait, wrong lure, what's the moon doing? Was it too cold, was a barometer falling? There's a heap of things that comes into play with fishing, so just learn from it. I've been doing it for 50 years and still learning. If you talk to these guys and know it all, yeah, BS, you don't know it all. Every trip's different. Just learn from it and see what happens. Learn, practice, keep going, keep practicing. It takes a lifetime, but it's fun, and you will find some good fish You will find some good fish, guys, eventually. It just takes time, and it's just a learning curve. It's a very long learning curve. Yeah. And I think I've been doing it for a long time, and I moved to Cairns and I haven't done many trips up here. I've struggled. So far I feel like a bit of a twig because I haven't caught much. I'm in tropics. It's just a learning curve, guys. You need time. You need the weather, and you just got to learn from your mistakes. Whatever happened last trip, what did I do wrong, or what didn't work, just think about something. Try something new next trip. Try something different. Listen to locals, and that's a really good tip, is listen to locals. Don't walk up and generally ask a local, because most of them won't tell you shit, they really won't. Occasionally you'll meet a nice guy and he might give you a few pointers, which is great, and thank you very much for guys that do that and help other fishers out. But a lot of time people walk around in tackle shops and stuff, you hear some interesting conversations while you're looking. You'll pick up on things, listen to the locals and stop. They won't tell you everything, but they'll tell you bits and pieces. Just listen and start putting it together. It's like a big jigsaw, that's all it is. Fishing's a big jigsaw, and it's fun to learn. Frustrating, but fun. Anyway guys, enough rambling on. I hope you enjoyed this tips and back to basics video. I hope it helps you out. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments. If you're not new to fishing and you watch the video and you got some of your own tips that helps you out, please mention them in the comments. Let's help our other fishers out catch their first fish or their prize fish. Just give them a helping hand. And if you like the video, please mate, give me a thumbs up. Like the videos, it really does help the channel out. And I'll see you soon. The next video is going to be the baiting one. I'm going to buy a heap of bait and a few different hooks, and I'll show you how to bait up smaller baits. I've already done one for offshore, big ones, you've seen that. I'm just going to do a baiting up video with small baits like little white baits, prawns, worms, and what hooks you should use, okay, just to help you out. So keep an eye out for that one, and thanks for watching guys. I'll see you again shortly.